we
Okay, continue.
now I will have to be careful what I say. um, but because there were like problems were just growing, and the school was not really doing anything with the problems. They were just sweeping that under the carpet and just pretending that it didn't happen. Um, a year later, there was a new class teacher, but after 4 months, we realized that situation is not going to change. So we need to change schools. And our daughter was a very good student, like she had very good marks, and at school she was fine. But when she came home, she would take all of the emotions out at home, especially on her younger sister. So of course, it led to a lot of problems with between the kids. And if there are issues between the kids, then there are issues between them and us, and also the parents. We were joking that at least she's behaving well at school, so we are not going to have social workers coming after us, but or interfering in the family. But it was a difficult time in the family, and it was like 2018, 2019. So in about February, I started looking for at other schools in the area, and in all of the schools there were the same problems. So we even thought about like a private school. We did not have much money. I was the only one working at the time, but I felt very strongly that Kinga, the older daughter is Kinga. She's 15. She will be 16 this year, and the younger daughter is Hannah, and she will be 14. She's also a homeschooler, but that's a separate story. So I felt that we need to look for a different school. And even if it needs to be like a private school, it's better to find the money for the private school than for psychological help afterwards. Because what was happening, I could see that our child was really getting unhappy and withdrawn, and she had issues with emotions. And so there were problems at home as well. So 2 days after I thought about this private school and I wanted to organize for Kinga to go there and see how she feels there, I met a friend who told me that, yes, this is the best school in the area, but had two daughters are there. So it's still the best school in the area, and this is why they stay there. But if you don't get to class, like the 4 classes, yeah, A, B, C, D, if you don't get to A or B, then there are lots of different issues. Like there are many problems in that school as well. At that point, we didn't know much about homeschooling, but I felt very strongly, and my husband agreed with me that, okay, we are not going to lose anything if we try for 1 year, because we can take Kinga out of that school, and she can be for 1 year in homeschooling, and we'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes, whether she stays in homeschooling. She was in the 6th grade at the time. So we thought, okay, we will do the 6th grade in homeschooling, and then she can stay in homeschooling. She can repeat the year if she doesn't do well, or if she doesn't manage to pass the year. She can go back to school and repeat the year. She can go back to the next year in school. So basically, like all the options are open, and we can just try it and see how it goes. But we have to do something, otherwise we are going to lose our child. Like I had a very strong conviction about that at the time, especially that I work as an interpreter, so an oral translator, and I also work with psychotherapists, psychologists, and in the medical field. And also I work with different therapies with autistic children. And so I could see that Kinga will need help. And we didn't know anything about homeschooling. First of all, we thought about, is she going to have contact with other kids? How do we organize that? How do we organize her lessons? How do we organize the day? How do we pay for extra things? What does it look like? We didn't know. All I knew at the time, and then we discussed it with Robert, who is my husband, was that we have to try, because we will lose our child if we don't try. So in Poland, we homeschooling is allowed, but you have to sign up with a school. It doesn't have to be close to your home. You sign up where you are a student, and this is where you take exams. In Poland, every year, you take an exam in every subject. So you take one exam for the whole curriculum, for biology, for geography, for maths, for Polish, for whatever you have there. I can't remember at the moment. But for the 6th grade, there were like 7 exams. And you have to get prepared. But it works this way that you don't have to just take all of those exams in one go in May or June. You can take one exam in October or November. You can start whenever you are ready. So we had to learn about it. And we had to choose a school where Kinga could go. When I started learning about homeschooling and how it works, in Warsaw, there are like 2 most popular schools, but there are also some other smaller schools that are, we call them homeschooling friendly schools. This is where you get support. This is where you get textbooks from, because the money that usually goes from the government to the government school, those homeschooling friendly schools receive a portion. This is not 100%. And the government lowered that even more last year. So they do everything for people not to homeschool, but more and more people go in homeschooling in Poland. We didn't know all of that. And we were speaking with different people and friends of friends as well. And then at the end of August, finally, we had some more time. A friend of our friends had some more time to talk about her school and her daughter in homeschooling. So she told us how it works in her school. We had thought about 2 schools that are like the most popular in Warsaw. And she told us about her school, which is called Socrates. Yeah, like, I know that I know nothing. So we thought, okay, we don't know which school to choose. Now we know a lot about Socrates and that school. We know that we know nothing, so we go to Socrates. Yes, we go to that school. This is how we chose the school, literally, the day before we had to sign up at the end of August. And this was a wonderful choice because the school helped us a lot with getting started. At the time, Kinga was 11. My husband worked from home. We laugh that he didn't make any money because we were investing in a new project, but he worked a lot. So he worked at home, but he also worked on his things, and Kinga worked on her classes. And Kinga is an introvert. So Kinga doesn't need a lot of people around her. And also she is very sensitive to too much sound. So I realized that, and when she was in grade 2nd and 3rd, and we did sensory integration therapy. This is when the child is oversensitive and there is the stimulation of the nervous system that is underdeveloped. That helped a lot, but it wasn't enough. So when she went into homeschooling and she didn't have all the noise, when she didn't have kids bullying her, when she could concentrate and she slept enough, she got enough sleep, like she could concentrate much better than at school. So we could see like she started smiling again. She got more outgoing. She started spending more time with her sister, with us, etc. So my husband said at the beginning, he's a project manager. He said, Kinga going into homeschooling, it's going to be a process. So he actually sat down with her, and step by step they were developing how they are going to have the timetable, how she's going to learn by herself. And from what we learned from our parents and also from our school was like as a suggestion. And I know that this is possible for the kids who are like 10 plus, that first of all, the child needs to learn by themselves. They need to learn because at school, you have a lecture, the teacher tells you everything. And this is what we discovered. This is what we heard from other people. And what my husband, what Robert did with Kinga, was Kinga needs to learn by herself. So it's a different approach, more like students. And also what Robert said was, if Kinga decides that, like, let's say a week she needs to do 5 topics from Polish, if she decides that she doesn't like it and she wants to do all of them on Monday, she will do that because it's going to be her timetable. So they started working together, and the first thing was Kinga needs to learn how to study by herself, take the responsibility for that as well, and work on her timetable as well. And for the first 4 months, and this is our experience and experience of other families in Poland, until the child takes like the first 2 or 4 exams, the child needs support. But then the children learn how to prepare by themselves. They also take the responsibility, and they are able to prepare their timetable by themselves or with a little help from the parents. So the first thing for us and for Kinga was to change the rhythm and find a rhythm that she's going to learn. So we thought, okay, does she have to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning? No. But does she need to do like what she plans for the day? Yes. Otherwise, it's going to accumulate later on. Initially, also, we thought, okay, so it's going to be 45 minutes of Polish, 45 minutes of English, 45 minutes of history. And then sometimes after 45 minutes, Kinga would just look for 45 minutes out of the window and not do anything. So after about a month or 2 or 3 weeks, we thought, okay, let's say instead of doing that like at school, just do one subject. And if you are done in 20 minutes, if you concentrate and you are done in 20 minutes, you've learned it, you've done the exercises, you're done. And this was also when she realized, and we learned, that effectively at school, for every 45 minutes of a class, you have about 20 minutes of real learning. And that in homeschooling shortens your time. You don't spend in homeschooling as much time learning as you do at school because you use that time effectively. And Kinga was 11. She had problems with concentration. And then 4 months later, 5 months later, after another exam, I will never forget the day because she finished an exam. She was really happy. And then on Monday, we sat down. It was me. I was doing this for the first time. Kinga and Robert had been doing this together. And Kinga took the book for history. She had been doing a little bit of history up to now. And then she said, okay, so my next exam is history. I have got, let's say, 30 subjects left, 30 topics left. How many weeks do I have until the exam? I need to be ready 2 weeks before the exam. There is Easter in the meantime, so I need to be ready by this date. this gives me so many dates. That means that I have to do 7 topics per week. And then she would put it in her calendar into the weekly, like every week she would have an Excel file that changes after every exam. And she did it, and she just calculated that by herself, and she knew how to do it. And then the pandemic came, and for Kinga it was no different. Of course, for us it was a terrible situation because my husband wasn't working. I lost my job practically because there were no conferences, no meetings. But for Kinga, and it was no different. She just continued the way she had been doing it. Hania, the younger one, suddenly had lessons online, and you know what it looked like during the pandemic. So this was the first thing that we learned about homeschooling. And I promised Daria and Louisa that I'm going to send you, because my husband started a blog, but then during the pandemic it didn't continue, but they are the first posts that are in English, and this is what he wrote from the point of view of a father. And for me, these were very, very important posts and very important things, because he was the one working with Kinga. And it's usually the mothers who run the homeschooling because they are at home. But in Poland, we also have a few fathers who do it, and they are active on social media as well. So that is from the point of view of the father as well, and you will be able to read it. But for me, as a mother, the most difficult thing was letting go of controlling that the homework is done, that the work is done, that stuff is on schedule, and that I need to check it. It's different with the children under the age of 10, because this is when you teach them how to read, write, they need more support. But it took me 2 years to realize that grades do not matter. That in reality, whether my kid has got like A's and B's in every subject, or they have good grades in the subjects that they enjoy and they will need in the future or they like. And if they don't like physics, it's enough if they have a D, that they need to pass that exam. It took me really 2 years to let go and to let the kids make mistakes. That's another thing. I grew up in a system, and my kids grew up in a school where you don't really get, how to say it, praised for what you know. The Polish school really punishes you for what you don't know. Like, you can have so much knowledge, but if you do not do well in a test, then it doesn't really matter. And it's different in homeschooling, with the exams and with the appreciation that the kids get for what they know. And that is wonderful. And so for me, it was difficult to let go of, because I never had the problems. I had A's and B's, and it wasn't a problem for me. But also I know that I'm a perfectionist, and I've been letting go of that for the last 2 years, and it's better for everyone, including me. Like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have come for 5 weeks to do the Camino for sure, for different reasons. And so for me, the realization that if the kids learn from their mistakes now, it's going to be better for them in the future. Our kids did lie. Our kids did spend too much time on YouTube pretending that they are learning. And we did that experience 2 years ago, and we did the same experience with the younger one, not the old one, but the younger one in last autumn. But now she has learned that she will have to work more to make up for the things that she was saying that she did. And now she's working on them. So she's working more at the moment, but she's learning that it's her own work that she's doing. But she also knows, both of the kids know, that they can spend more time on the subjects that is of interest to them. And, well, they need to pass the rest. So they still need to learn enough to get a D or a C or a B, but to pass, because otherwise they will not move on to the next grade. But what homeschooling really gave us was enough sleep for the kids, fewer emotional problems with different things at school. For the kids, the ability to make mistakes. And I would say that for us, the homeschooling saved our kids and our family, because I don't know where our older daughter would be at the moment, probably with depression and other issues as well. It is easier when you have more than one child and you have children close with age, like our daughters are 2 years apart, because they could play together. They do different things together. And so when they do breaks, they do different stuff also. So that was really helpful. So Kinga came into homeschooling in 2019, and we didn't take both kids, despite the problems in the class of the younger daughter, because we didn't know how it's going to go. We knew it's going to be tricky enough with one daughter, but then in 2020, in May, we just knew that the pandemic is not just going to end, and the problems in Hanya's, the younger daughter's school, are going to be even bigger, because that's what happened in Kinga's class. Like grade 3 was still more or less okay, and grade 4 was really difficult. We were right, but like the stories I heard from grade 4 and 5 from Kinga's class, I don't even want to think about them with 2 of the boys. And so Hanya joined in 2020. And this time it was me, for different reasons, that I was helping her get into homeschooling and learn by herself. And so we don't even start, like in Poland, the school starts on the 1st of September. And when we started homeschooling, we thought, okay, we have to start at the beginning of September, otherwise we'll not manage to do everything. But in reality, we usually start like mid-September. And so we started, and Kinga knew what to do. She started her stuff, and I was working from home as well. I was sitting in the living room, but I was doing translation, written translation, and also my administrative stuff for my company. And so I could see that Hanya is doing everything, just not to the textbooks. So I sat down with her one afternoon, one evening, the second evening, and we were also reading a book that's available in English. Maybe it's available in Polish as well. I will look for the links and I will try to find it. And it's about how to learn, and it's about the brain as well. I read those books, my kids didn't. I bought it for them, but they did not. They said, we'll manage, Mom. We'll do it other way. Okay. And I was, just flipping through the pages, not reading the whole thing. And there was like one statement saying, even if you are on the right path, cars will run you over if you don't move. And we started laughing about it, that you can be on the right path, whether it's the music school or it's the homeschooling, but if you sit and do nothing, you will get killed. You will not move. So the next day, my daughter Hanya brought her textbook for biology, I remember that, and her copybook, exercise book, and she started doing the exercises. But I realized either that evening or that day that she had been so afraid of making a mistake, because that's what was at school. If you make a mistake, you will get like a minus. 3 minuses is a fail, so you get like 1. In Polish, it's a fail. And She was just afraid of making a mistake. And then she would do the exercises and say, "Oh, what's this?" And I would say, "Find the answer in the book." "Oh, it's not there." "Breathe, Agnieszka. Okay, show me the book." Yeah. So she would show me the book, and I said, "It's on the upper part of the page, or it's, the lower half of the page. Look for this information there." And then she would find it. And she would learn to trust herself. And sometimes she would have to read or do something again. But she started really doing that stuff. And of course, at the moment, it's not ideal. And but our younger daughter has done the experience, and the older one as well, that if you don't do this, then it's going to catch up with you later on. And that means that in the springtime, when weekends are organized by the Gen, by the Scouts, by other organizations, you will not be able to go because you will have work to do. But the kids also learned that they can reschedule that. So for me, that I can think of, the biggest challenge at the moment, at the beginning, was for the children to learn how to study by themselves, and for us parents to support them, but not to control everything that is happening. That was especially difficult for me as a mother. My husband was more like, "It will be okay." And I was like, "Okay, if you say so." And the second one was really noticing how grades don't matter. But what matters is the knowledge, and very often at school, also the grades do not reflect how much the child knows in a given subject. In Poland, we have got the system of the primary school where there are 8 grades, and then there are 4 years of the secondary school. After the grade 8, there is an official exam, and based on that exam, the results, and on the grades in the 8th grade, you get to, to the school that you get to. If you don't get enough points, then you don't get to that school. We were lucky. My kids are bilingual, Polish and English. And in Poland, it is possible to take part in some competitions from different subjects. If you win on the national level, then you get a free ticket. You get an entry to any school in the country, even if you've got like straight D's from the exams and on the certificate, because you win those competitions. And Kinga, we put a lot of, I worked with her a lot. She worked a lot. And in the 7th grade, she won that competition. And it was very lucky for us. It really was God providence, because in the 8th grade, when she was in the 8th grade and she would be preparing for the exam and everything, my dad had cancer, and then my dad was dying. So we wouldn't be supporting Kinga as much as she needed that. And so, but her grades did not matter. So this was like a blessing for us. And Kinga wanted to go to a regular high school, not homeschooling. So she was in homeschooling for 3 years, and she wanted to go to a school that was a regular school. That's what she wanted. So she chose a school close to home, because she could travel into Warsaw, but then it would be like 45 minutes. And she said at the age of 14, "Mom, if I am to be at school at 8 o'clock in the morning, which means I have to get up at 6 o'clock, it's not going to happen." It's just not going to happen. So she chose a very good school close to our home. With the grades she had, she wouldn't get into that school, but she had the free ticket because of the competition in her English, that she put a lot of work into it together with me. And it was an important experience, but this year she's back in homeschooling. So after 8 months, not even that, after 6 months of that school, she started getting sick. There were different, and then you have a backlog at school. So at some point I asked her, Kinga, how is it possible that you can learn the curriculum for the whole year, pass the exam, take the exam in homeschooling, and you have a problem with learning for 3 weeks for a test in physics or maths or geography? And Kinga at the age of 15 said, Mom, in homeschooling, if I get sick, I can just move all of that to later. I can still get ready for the exam because I can move other subjects to later as well. At school, if I get sick, I have to make up for when I was sick and still catch up with this. Plus, when in homeschooling, I'm getting ready and I have more work to do, I can just reschedule. I can move some stuff to later and work on it even on Saturdays. But I only concentrate, like, let's say, I can concentrate on geography and biology and then do a little bit of Polish history, maths, English. In the high school, I have a test every day. I have to learn, I have to do projects, and I cannot concentrate on one thing. So her choice eventually was to go back to homeschooling. But we are lucky that she is in it's a new school. They have experience in homeschooling and doing exams. But this year they offer hybrid, so they are like 2 days in Warsaw. So the kids see each other. They spend time together 2 days, and 3 days they have some classes online, and they have some other activities that are not connected with school. Like for my daughter, it is a choir, it is voice classes, and it's horse riding. So our experience in homeschooling has been really good. Now I will address 2 things that most people say about homeschooling. It's like, how do you socialize? Where do you get friends from? And then I already joked with Francisco and with Louisa and with Daria that I keep my kids in the cellar, in the basement. So of course people look like this, like, what do you do? And I keep my kids in the basement. If you say that they don't socialize, that's what I do. So it's like, you really? And I said, of course not. We have got the Focolare movement, and we have got friends there. Our younger daughter goes to music school. She has friends there. Not as much as in a regular school. Kinga, the older daughter, goes to a choir, so she socializes there. Her best friend is from the choir, and she goes horse riding. As Kinga puts it, I prefer horses to people. Okay, some do. Not everyone does. But she wants to be a horse psychologist in the future. But she has a way, but she also says, and she understood it about 3 years ago, but Sophia, the owner of the stable, say that if there is a problem with the horse, there's a problem with the rider. So I will have to deal with the people as well. So she knows that. But what I'm going to say is all of the relationships that the kids maintain, they are relationships that build. They are relationships that the kids enjoy. They are relationships that the kids develop, and not where there is bullying, not where there is violence, not where the kids are put down, because you don't have to have those relationships. So that leads to the second question, connected with the first. But it doesn't prepare you for dealing with difficult people in the future. Everywhere you go, you will find people that you don't want to deal with. And that is also when we go on a skiing holiday with many families, when we go to other places, even in the meetings in Focolare, you don't like everyone. You don't get on with everyone. So the kids are learning that, plus they are learning their self-value. So when they meet a difficult person, they don't have to rely on that person to like them and do everything to be liked as well. So that is a great value of homeschooling. The kids are appreciated and they learn that they have value and it's not connected with other people. That is what I learned in homeschooling as well. So these are the two things. It's not like the kids are kept away from problems because the problems will come up everywhere. So one thing is socialization. And for us at school, it was destructive socialization. There are many other ways to find your friends. It is also true that for a long time, our younger daughter couldn't find like a really close friend. She had a few friends that we would take her to visit and etc. But she didn't really have like the best friend. And she found her best friend when she was doing like a German week in Berlin, in Potsdam. The girl is from a different town, but the kids are on Facebook, they are on WhatsApp, they message, they talk, they have visited each other, and it's a beautiful friendship and a wonderful girl. But last year, Hania was struggling. That is true as well. Socialization is different when you have a group of families where you can meet regularly and your kids get on well, and in home education. And it's also easier when the kids are older because you don't have to drive them places to see their friends. But for us, socialization and having friends and having contacts with others in homeschooling is really growing and helping you grow and build and having self-value as opposed to bullying and many big problems at school that the school is not dealing with. The school doesn't deal with many of the issues, and I know it from many different places. So the first thing is socialization, and I didn't do notes before the meeting. I didn't prepare any notes, but that is like the main myth is socialization. And then the second one is, well, how do you don't learn enough. Most kids learn most, like they learn more in homeschooling than they do in school, at school. And that is because they have more time and they sleep enough and they are in a friendly environment where they don't have to be worried that someone is going to do something when it's too noisy and other things. So it really gives you more opportunities to talk about stuff. Sometimes you just talk about a subject and you change the subject. And if you want to spend more time on biology, you have the time because you spend less time studying what you need to study and you can concentrate on other things as well. So these are like the main things that I can think of. But it may be best if you ask questions. Or Daria, Luisa, when there is something that you can recall and you would like me to talk about, just say so.
Can you see me? Can you see? No.
I can see you, but you need to speak to the microphone.
Thank you. I don't know. Ah. Não, não, vou perguntar. Se alguém quer perguntas. Ah, there is some questions. Amen.
Can you tell us something about your time to work with? Ups, o que se passa aí? Você não está a ver assim. Eu não chego lá. Sorry. About your the spiritual work with your girls. You have any support? You do it only what you learn with your parents, or you do any work on that level of como é que se diz virtudes? Virtues. Working the virtues, or is only the natural capacities from their selves? You understand the question? More or less.
I hope so. If I do not answer it, then you can ask additional questions.
No. Okay.
The spiritual part
Yes.
is very important for us. We are both practicing Catholics. My husband is the extraordinary minister of Holy Communion in our church as well. So we pray at meal times. We pray every evening as well as a whole family. We sit together, we pray, we talk as well. But the spiritual, Luisa, I can see you smiling, but you can share that experience also later on. How we pray in the evening, because I shared that with you, and that moment is very important. But what's also important for us with virtues, as you say, and traces of characters, and talking about loving the other person, being generous, taking care of others, it is all important for us, and we are very lucky. We are very lucky because we are in a very nice parish with the Salvatorians, where they work with the young people. So our kids go to the choir, like the younger one, not anymore, but they attended for many years the church choir. So that was also the place to see that many other girls and many other families live the same way, and they go to church and talk about virtues, talk about God. So there are some friendships from the choir as well. Plus, the kids really improved their voices. They developed their voices incredibly in that choir, because the nuns running it were incredible. So that is one level. And we also are friends of the Focolare movement. So the kids also go to Gen meetings, to youth meetings, and that is very helpful with a spiritual level as well. But we also need to remember that the kids learn from us not by hearing, but by seeing what we do. So we also realize with my husband that how we behave and what we do by example, that is the teaching that we need to do with the kids. So for many years, we went to the 11 o'clock mass, like all of us. And 11 o'clock in our parish is the mass with the participation of the children. So the sermon is for the kids. Then there is also the blessing of children at the end, those who do not take communion. But the sermons are so good that they're good for us parents as well. And we very often talk about it at lunchtime also on Sunday. So at the moment, we sometimes split on Sunday because the younger daughter prefers the Mass for children, and the older daughter now helps out with the choir, with the younger choir, and she's part of the church band that is being created. I mean, sometimes they sing, sometimes they don't, and we don't know, because this band like half exists. And but it's important that they do meet. They came to Lisbon. That the people who sing and will sing there, they were earlier active in different other areas in the parish. So my daughter came with the parish group to Lisbon last year, and she loved Portugal, and she loved the people. It was just too hot. So she enjoyed the experience. But this was also something, when it comes to this choir, it wasn't like by chance, you can say. My daughter Kinga was 4.5 when she started saying, I want to sing with the girls. I want to sing with the girls. And it's like, you're too young. You're too small. Not yet. So when she turned 5, I promised I'm going to ask if she can join the choir. So I went up to the nun and I asked if it's possible. And she said, well, we usually take girls from the age like 6 or 7. But if Kinga comes and participates regularly, she can join the choir. The nun said, I'm not going to be here from September. There's going to be a different nun, but I'm sure she will accept Kinga. For me, when I look at it now, it is an example of listening to our children. Like, we don't own our kids, we look after them, we are the guardians, they belong to God. And very often, kids tell us something that to us doesn't make sense yet. But if we really listen to them, and this was the situation, it was a situation of bad situation at school. When we listen to the kids and what they would like to do, even though it may not make sense to us, we can see what we can do in that respect, because it may be a great passion or a great chance for them. So Kinga started going to that choir practice every Saturday from September. She was 5. And because it was Saturday, I would have to go with her. She didn't want to stay there by herself. And because it was Saturday, I would had to take Hania with me. So Hania started attending the church choir at the age of 3 as a mascot, yeah. And then the nun said that Kinga's voice is good, but Hania is gifted, yeah. So come the first Christmas carols concert, Hania was singing a solo, like one part, with her cuddly toy, holding on to her cuddly seal, yeah. And but because Kinga attended the choir and the nun was amazing, Kinga's voice developed really amazingly. Also, she attended the choir at school. And Kinga doesn't like to sing solo. But from the 4th grade, from the age of 10, she started volunteering to sing the psalm. So I asked her at some point, like, how come you said you're never going to sing solo at school, but you volunteer to sing the psalm in front of everyone in the church? And she said, Mom, that is because I know that if I make a mistake in the church, no one will laugh at me and no one will talk about it. If I make one mistake at school, they will make jokes of me for half a year and I will never hear the end of it. So this was about the environment that was safe for her, and it was incredible. So Hania stopped going to the church choir because most of the kids that were her age had left, and they are much younger girls, and Hania just doesn't enjoy it anymore. And Kinga enjoys being with younger kids and helping out. So she goes and she helps out with the choir. And I was amazed because Kinga got a proposal from our nun that Kinga can go on the church trip at the end of June when there's the holiday and they are going to go on like a trip. Kinga has been many times, but now she would go to help out. And it is at the same time as a horse riding camp. So I said, okay, Kinga, so you need to choose. And I was sure she was going to choose the horses. I said, this year the horse riding camp, it's for younger riders. They are not that advanced. I will go with the church choir. I want to help out and be with the kids. And it's like, wow. And you know what? The riding camp is the week after now. So she's going to go to both. And so that is the spiritual part. That is for us the meetings with the Focolare movement. And I know that the kids, I'm not going to lie to myself that the kids go for the spiritual part. Partially, yes. But when I was a Jan, when I was part of the Focolare movement, I was always going to all of the events for my friends. If my friends were going, I knew that someone is going to be there. So it was fun. All of the information and all of the values and the way of life that we have at home, it is important, but it is the friendship. And we hope that because of the friendship within the movement and within the church as well, that the kids have, that if they have a problem that they don't want to come with to us, they don't want to talk for some reason about this problem with us, they will turn to their friends. And the friends will give them an advice that will be sensible and also connected with the spiritual life. So we hope. We'll see. God will provide. And there are more stories about that Dario and Louisa know. But we stopped it for some time now. So thank you very much for that question. A few years ago, we would sit down and each of us would choose one thing for a month that we worked with that was difficult for us. So we could say, oh, I have a problem with this and this. Like, I leave at the last, I'm talking about myself now. I'm always like leaving at the last moment. So I want to work on leaving a little bit earlier, leaving 5 or 10 minutes earlier than usual so that I am not so stressed out. And we could tell each other in the family, I notice this problem or this issue or this gets on my nerves or something. We could just name one thing for each person and we would do that once every 2 months. And then I could choose that I'm going to work on leaving for mass, leaving for appointments or whatever, being 10 minutes before the time, like planning a little bit earlier. Each of us would choose just one thing. I can't remember where I read it, but just working on one thing at a time, because that's the only thing that you can remember. So it would be working on going to sleep on time. It could be working on, I can't even remember, but we knew that it would be just one thing at a time. And that is helpful. There was a book that I also read when I interpreted about a family with 15 children, 15 kids, a Spanish family, and they shared their experience. And that was very helpful. That was also about looking after the house. Like there are so many duties, big and small, and they had a whole list. They sat down and each would take one, like 2 that they did not mind. Yeah. If I hate ironing, I can do hoovering and I can wash the windows. Just don't ask me to do the ironing. Yeah. But then I will do the hoovering, I will wash the windows, and it will not be a problem, but it is a problem to iron. Someone else hates washing the windows, so they are going to do something else. So this way, of course, all of the kids had to go through dishwashing, doing unloading the dishwasher, hoovering to learn things. So they would change every month. But that fact that you could do something at home that didn't require you to overcome yourself each time, that was extremely helpful. And one more thing that's also connected with virtues and values is that our kids do not have laptops in their bedrooms. They learn in the living room. Each of them has got a computer, and we can look at what they are doing, like not to control, but also not to see different things that they shouldn't be watching. And we also have all of the computers and we have all of the screens and the mobile phones from like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening are in the lounge and switched off. Unless there is something they need to organize for the following day, then they can do it, but then they switch them off and they don't have it in their rooms. So they also get enough sleep. Something that also helped us on the same note when the kids were younger, and initially for the 3 years, and we are thinking about how to go back to it, was there is no screen until 12 o'clock. So when you get up, you read a book, you take your textbook, but there is no screen until 12. Of course, if you have lessons online, then that's different. But that was really helpful, and it helped the kids concentrate as well. So they were using the textbooks, and a lot of work was done that way for school.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Thank you, Agnes.
Perfectly. Perfectly.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much for to be here with us. Um, they not want to ask anything, but they want to thank you, and we'll be in touch. Yes, estaremos em contacto. He'll be in touch by in contact. Yes. Muito, muito obrigada. In Portuguese, you understand?
I understand this much Portuguese, yes.
Bom
Thank
caminho, bom caminho.
Obrigada.
And we'll talk more in another moment. Okay?
Okay, and I wish you all the best. God bless. And I keep my fingers. How do you keep fingers crossed in Portugal? Because we go like this. We hold
Cruzar.
our thumbs.
Cruzar.
This is how we go in Polish.
Okay. It's better. It's better.
It works. You know, this works best. This works best.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
But this works as well. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. Kiss.
Thank you.
Bom caminho, bom caminho. Bueno
Obrigada.
caminho. Bom caminho.
Muito obrigada.
Beijinho. Kisses.
Okay. See you. Bye.
And through Santiago.
Thank you. And my feet are working. So it's there are so many miracles along the way that it's absolutely amazing.
Wow, wonderful.
Like even yesterday and today, Lieta is joking because she recommended a physiotherapist for me. And it's like yesterday I got 1.5 hours instead of 1 hour. Today it was nearly 2 hours. So Lieta is joking that this is like a special pilgrim program. I receive, I get, and it's wonderful.
Okay. Thank you for all.
Thank you. All the best.
Further recovery.
Thank you.